Love that. We're about ready to walk into the miracle zone. A little over a month ago, I received a suggestion on Facebook to add a banner to my profile picture. And after browsing through their options, I chose the suggested phrase, live, laugh, love. For some reason, it spoke to me. It resonated with the state of mind I was in, enjoying life, laughing out loud, and loving deeply. I recently received a raise and a promotion at work. We moved into a great new building where I now have an incredible view of City Hall in Philly. Life is really good. Live, laugh, love. So when Reverend Margaret asked me to cover for her while she was away, I enthusiastically said yes. Yes to another opportunity to stand before you and speak. But I really had no planned talk in mind. And when she asked me a couple weeks ago for the name of my talk so she could prepare the Sunday schedule for me so I could update the website and Brenda could update the announcements, I still didn't know what I was going to talk about. I just knew the words are going to be live, laugh, love. So that's what I decided. My name of my talk is going to be Live, Laugh, Love. I just love the positive energy contained in those words. And I told her, and even though I didn't know what I was going to be sharing, I had no doubt the Spirit, the universe, God would provide the inspiration I needed in divine, right, perfect order. Live, laugh, love. So a month ago, our first ministry class wrapped up. And one of the most beautiful and touching experiences was we each chose a name of the person in the class at random. And our assignment was to give a token of our appreciation to this person. Now, for those of you who don't know, we've been taking classes together here for many years now. And many of us had just finished 2.5 years of practitioner training. So we're relatively close. So this was not too hard of a feat to give something of value, meaningful to each person. And it was a very touching and moving moment for us. And I was particularly blessed. My dear friend Barbara Jakubowski selected my name, and she actually gave me 3 things. So I really lucked out. Complimenting my sense of humor, quick wit, love for comedy, and tendency to post snarky socio-political stuff on Facebook. You know me well. She gave me a book by the comedian and political satirist Stephen Colbert. Very appropriate. She also gave me a stone with the word faith inscribed on it, which now sits on my altar at home. Finally, she gave me a very interesting book, and one that I never would have considered buying for myself, The World According to Mr. Rogers. A collection of inspiring quotes, anecdotes, and writings this beloved man either wrote or appreciated. And I'm going to say one interesting thing about this, and I pointed out the night she gave it to me. I listened to a weekly podcast by a comedian by the name of Todd Glass. I've been listening to him for years. And he regularly praises the work of Mr. Rogers on his show. In fact, he ends the show each week with this song. It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair. But it's you I like, the way you are right now, the way down deep inside you, not the things that hide you, not your toys, they're just beside you. But it's you I like, every part of you, your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. And I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you, it's you, it's you I like. So that was an amazing little coincidence or synchronicity right there. Not only that one of my favorite podcasts closes with a Mr. Rogers song, but that something compelled Barbara to buy this book. The World of Mr. Rogers is a gift for me. Live, laugh, love. So this week I began working on this talk. I gathered the books I was going to use for research and insight, including the Science of Mind textbook, A Course in Miracles, Why is God Laughing by Deepak Chopra, and When God Winks at You by Squire Rushnell. The one book I did not consider was this gift from Barbara. However, Tuesday morning, as I was getting ready for work, I was drawn to the book like a magnet. That intuition, that still small voice of my true nature, who has been my constant friend and companion over the past several years, told me in no uncertain terms to put it in my backpack. So I did. Live, laugh, love. Now, my daily ritual on the train is pretty specific. I grab a Metro, put in my earphones, start listening to a podcast, while I try to complete the first Sudoku puzzle by the time the train gets from my stop at Westmont to Ferry Avenue. Well, I failed. I didn't complete it until we got to City Hall in Camden. But after I complete the Sudoku, I switch out my earphones to my iPod, and I listen to music while I read the rest of the trip to Philadelphia. The train at this point was departing City Hall when I reached in the backpack and grabbed the book. I should note I had not opened the book since Barbara gave it to me that night a few weeks before. This was literally my first time opening it. At 9:20 Tuesday morning, while the train was crossing the Ben Franklin Bridge, I read the very first line in the foreword by Joanne Rogers, which is actually a quote, actually part of a quote from Bessie Anderson Stanley. He has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much. Live, laugh, love. The three words that have been part of my subconscious for the past several weeks. Right there on the pages of a book I received as a gift from someone who was compelled to buy it for me, not knowing anything about what I was going to talk about this morning, and in the exact same order as the Facebook recommendation I received over a month ago. Goosebumps. Squire Rushnell calls them God winks. On the back of my Pathways of Light business cards, I have a favorite line from A Course in Miracles. Miracles should inspire gratitude, not awe. As I looked across the Delaware River as the train crossed the bridge, feeling the energy of the excitement deep inside my being, thank you were the words that I said. But allow me to read the whole quote from A Course in Miracles, because it has so much more than the limited space on my business card will allow. Miracles should inspire gratitude, not awe. You should thank God for who you really are. The children of God are holy, and the miracle honors their holiness, which can be hidden but never lost. Now, others might say it's just a coincidence, and it would be utterly crazy for me to believe anything else. And I suppose that's fair, because I think they're crazy if they think it's anything else. And I suppose there'll be skeptics and critics who would challenge the anecdotal story. I know I would if it didn't happen to me. Why should I believe you? But here's the thing, you don't have to take my word for it. But what makes me so special? With all the suffering in the world, why would God place three words in my subconscious and then manifest them before my very eyes through a book I received as a gift? I don't know why. Even though I'm an ordained minister and a licensed religious science practitioner, I don't know why or how Spirit moves the way it does. I only know that it does. The Science of Mind book states, it is impossible for a finite mind to comprehend such a life, complete life and power. In moments of real inspiration, we realize, to a degree at least, that God is all. Which has within itself all that really is. The life in everything and the love through everything. The one presence and the one infinite person whom we call God or Spirit. Within the one, all live. This has been an important realization for me as I study this religion, philosophy, and way of life. What happened to me on that train isn't unique to me. As amazing as that was, it is actually the natural order of things. A Course in Miracles emphasizes this point when it declares miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. What happened to me with those three words in the revelation in the book, in the gift of this book, is absolutely possible for anyone. I'm going to share a reading from Science of Mind in chapter 6, man's relationship to the spiritual universe. And when he's referring to man, he's referring to mankind, not just men. These spiritual truths also apply to women and children as well, everyone. Each individual maintains his identity in law through his personal use of law, and each is drawing from life what he thinks into it. To learn how to think is to learn how to live. Man, by thinking, can bring into his experience whatever he desires if he thinks correctly. This is not done by holding thoughts, but by knowing the truth. There is a vast difference, a difference which too few realize. You'll hear Reverend Martyr from time to time up here say, I do not hold people in prayer. I know the truth about them. As ministers and religious science practitioners, we do the same. We know the spiritual truth, the God essence of every individual person who comes to us for treatment. The tendency of modern thought is to return by the route of inductive science to the great spiritual deductions of the ages, that all is one. But men are still puzzled, trying to reconcile the world of multiplicity, or what Course in Miracles calls separation, the objective world of many things, to their belief in the final necessity of unity. Every great spiritual teacher has known that God is one, not two. They have also known that evil exists in the world. What we mean by evil is apparent limitation, poverty, sickness, death, and what we call sin, which is nothing more than a mistake. How are we going to reconcile suffering and lack with the goodness of God? The difficulty is solved when we realize all creation is an effect. There are different mental depths and heights from which we may look out upon life. From whatever level we look, that which we see comes back to us by an invariable law of attraction. That which we look upon is real while we look at it. We arrive at a consciousness of unity only in such a degree as we see that what we are looking for, we are looking with and looking at. Heaven is lost merely for the lack of a perception of harmony. I experienced heaven in that moment on the train with those 3 words in that book. My holiness was honored by that miracle. I had entered the miracle zone. A knowing I was divinely connected to something greater than myself within myself. And my friends, I believe we can get to that state of awareness where each and every one of us can experience that in our lives all the time. The actor who played Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the film Selma, David Oyelowo, says he often prayed on the set. As well, they also experienced multiple God winks during the shooting. He tells of a scene in which he, as Dr. King, would give an important speech. The production designer had placed a lectern on the set, but something tugged at him. It didn't seem right. I felt like Dr. King should be doing that speech from a pulpit. So the crew member walked down the street to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, which was in the neighborhood they'd selected for the shooting. He asked the church staff member if they could borrow a pulpit. The staff member said the pulpit from the main sanctuary of the church was not available, but 2 days before they had discovered another pulpit in the basement. They could use that one. As he tells the story in his new book, The God-Wing Effect, this is by Squire Rushnell, David sets up the God-Wing punchline. We found out it was from the actual pulpit Dr. King gave that actual speech from. Astonished, he continues, wow, the events in the film happened 50 years ago. At any time in those intervening years could that pulpit have been found. It was like God was winking at us. Little Susie was watching her father, a minister, write a Sunday message. How do you know what to say, she asked. Why, God tells me. I let Spirit direct me. Oh, then why do you keep crossing things out? A minister known for his lengthy talks, not me, noticed a man get up and leave during the middle of the message. The man returned just before the conclusion of the service. Afterwards, the minister asked the man where he had gone. I went to get a haircut, was the reply. But, said the minister, why didn't you do that before the service? Because, the gentleman said, I didn't need one then. The minister in his Sunday message used forgive your enemies as his subject. After a long message, he asked how many were willing to forgive their enemies. About half held up their hands. Not satisfied, he harangued for another 20 minutes and repeated the question. This time he received a response of about 80%. Still unsatisfied, he lectured for another 15 minutes and repeated the question. With all thoughts now on Sunday dinner, all responded except one elderly lady in the rear. Mrs. Jones, are you not willing to forgive your enemies? I don't have any. Mrs. Jones, that is very unusual. How old are you? 93. Mrs. Jones, please come down in front and tell the congregation how a person can live to 93 and not have an enemy in the world. The little sweetheart of a lady tottered down the aisle very slowly, turned around and said, it's easy. I outlived them all. All right, one more. The Reverend Billy Graham tells of a time early in his ministry when he arrived in a small town to preach a sermon. Wanting to mail a letter, he asked a young boy where the post office was. When the boy had told him, Dr. Graham thanked him and said, "If you'll come to church this evening, you can hear me telling everyone how to get to heaven." And the boy said, "I don't think I'll be there. You don't even know your way to the post office."
One too many.
The writer and essayist Anne Lamott says, "Laughter is carbonated holiness." In A Course in Miracles, Jesus describes how the idea of our perception of being separated from God occurred. Into eternity, where all is one, there crept a tiny, mad idea, at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. You gotta love A Course in Miracles. What the heck does that mean? And I'll be the first to admit, even though I studied A Course in Miracles for my ordination, it's some pretty intense reading. And time does not allow me to perform a line-by-line exegesis on what is said in this whole particular section, but to briefly explain the whole notion of the illusion of our separation from God was due to us collectively as the Son of God forgetting to laugh, or remembering not to laugh. We lost our joy. There crept a tiny mad idea that we did something to offend God, to separate ourselves from God. However, the good news is, when we see this illusion as it is, when the miracle changes our perception and we begin to understand we can never be separated from God, this is how the Course describes it. But hear him say, "My brother, holy Son of God, behold your idle dream in which this could occur. And you will leave the holy instant with your laughter and your brother's joined with his." Laughter is a characteristic, a feature, and a demonstration of our awakening. Lastly, love. Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. Miracles are a kind of exchange. Like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws, i.e. effects or conditions. They bring more love to the giver and the receiver. The Science of Mind describes love this way. Love is the self-givingness of the Spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. Love is the self-givingness of the Spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. Emerson tells us that love is a synonym for God. We're also told in the New Testament, "He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love." Love is free from condemnation, even as it is free from fear. That one was key to me. Love is free from condemnation, even as it is free from fear. Love is a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible. The Science of Mind in a different section. In order to have this friendship enduring, truly, really worthwhile, and a thing of beauty, we should cultivate an attitude of friendship toward everybody and everything. The one who has learned to love all people will find plenty of people who will return that love. This is not mere sentiment. And it is more than a religious attitude of mine. It is a deep scientific fact, and one to which we should pay attention. The reason is this. As all is mine, as we attract to us what we first become, until we learn to love, we are not sending our love vibrations, and not until we send out those vibrations can we receive love in return. Live, laugh, love. To close, I'm going to share the complete quote from the book Barbara gave me, because even though those 3 words were a miracle in itself, they were leading me into a deeper realization. He has achieved success who has lived well and laughed often and loved much, who has enjoyed the trust of pure women, the respect of intelligent men, and the love of little children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who has left the world better than he found it, whether by an improved copy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has always looked for the best in others and given them the best he had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. Go forth, live, laugh, love, and feel those goosebumps.